Hey guys, this is Paul Hunter, a realtor here in Houston, Texas. I've been here for the last 7 years. I'm from Colombia, South America, so I know a little bit about high inflation, high interest rates, and high unemployment. Today we're covering how Uber and Lyft prices rise, and that may find some neighborhoods uh, falling into disrepair or falling into less favorable light for those residents. But first, a quick thing. I am not a financial advisor. I do appreciate likes, comments, and subscribing to my channel. Let's get started. First of all, those of you who know me understand that I look at economics as mainly a psychological activity. In other words, there are some foundational things like supply and demand, but in general, it's a psychological um, product or result of psychological activity by human beings. In other words, for those who have heard the saying, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're both right. So anyway, I don't want to give you any doom and gloom, just the facts. The trouble is that if there's enough people who buy into the doom and gloom, it becomes a reality. So I'm not going to blow smoke up anywhere. Remember that economics is mainly a psychological activity fueled human activity. Talk about how Uber and Lyft prices are rising and some neighborhoods may fall. Peter Loftus, general manager of Ivy City Smokehouse and a resident of Hecht Warehouse Building since 2015, has seen firsthand how skyrocketing Uber and Lyft prices have made his Northeast DC neighborhood less accessible. A recent night when his wife went to a Daddy Yankee concert at Capital One Arena downtown, and she called him to get a ride home. She said, "It's $63 to go from Capital One Arena to Ivy City." I said, "All right, I'm coming to get you." Loftus recalled, "That's bad for us." Loftus said he got to know the Uber and Lyft drivers that stopped in his neighborhood personally before the pandemic, but today those familiar faces have melted away. "We welcomed it," said Loftus, a founding employee of Michelin Guide recognized restaurant. "We had a fleet of drivers that we're in touch with, and they all, after the pandemic, have just disappeared." In recent years, ride-hailing companies like Uber and Lyft have reacted to rising pressure from investors to achieve profitability by jacking up prices. The cost of a trip for the first quarter of this year was 45% higher than in the same quarter of 2019. Well, guys, what this means is that people were thinking that investors were thinking that Uber and Lyft could go on forever with this the ride sharing deal or the ride sharing gig that did not require a profitable, that there's so much in the future that the profitability would be built in the future. However, between here and the future, there are a bunch of little steps. We still have to pay ourselves today. We still have to buy gas today. We still have to repair our cars today. And if the Uber drivers can't make any money at it, there won't be any drivers. And again, here's where the real fundamentals of economics come into play. Supply and demand. Economics, apart from being a psychological activity, is really kind of a way to allocate scarce resources. And it doesn't matter whether it's a capitalistic or a communistic economy, it's still going to have the same situations. The difference in a capitalist society is that the market is relatively free, whereas in a communist society, there's the government or central control trying to direct the economy. So they're still going to have the same laws in effect. The results are different, obviously. But anyway, coming back to the Uber and Lyft deals, there's a lot of pressure on from investors on the companies to make money. And if they don't make any money, people are moving out. One way to make money is to raise prices, obviously. But as you raise prices, then there's going to be a lower demand. That's just the way it works. So, and in a lot of cases, these areas like downtown DC, but it happens here in Houston, it happens all over big metro areas where parking is difficult, where it's kind of fun to go out on date night or just out for dinner for some drinks, and then not have to worry about where you park your car, whether you had a little bit much to drink. Uber and Lyft were a great way to overcome that. So now that it's getting to the point where we have less and less of these drivers because the prices are going up, then there are less and less people going out for date night. So if before we spent, say, $40 on the Uber or the Lyft drives, now we're spending 70 or 80. Well, that's cutting into the date night budget. In other words, into your dinner or into your drinks. And so that's what I was saying. A dwindling supply of drivers, rising interest rates, here we go. A dwindling supply of drivers, rising interest rates, and decline of cash infusions from patient venture capitalists have squeezed those apps, leading outlets like Slate to declare that in May that the decade of cheap rides is over. Meanwhile, inflation remaining stubbornly high all summer, the Labor Department latest report Tuesday showed that the overall rate increased 8.3% year over year for August, and then customers are feeling budget pressures and may be cutting back on pricey ride-sharing trips, experts say. Again, so people are starting to feel it. This is a real effect. In other words, your budget, your monthly income, your savings, wherever you're pulling money out of to spend, you're starting to see that your grocery bills are a little higher, your gas bill is a little bit higher. It's not life-changing, but it's definitely higher. So what happens is that in the face of rising inflation, the psychology behind it, people are going to start feeling pressure. So they stop spending as much. They pull back on their spending. That just generates a lower level demand for the entire economy. So in the end, because if there's a critical mass of people who actually think that that's going to be bad in the future, that's what's going to bring that future now, and we'll have just a really bad situation in terms of the economy. Now, what does that have to do with real estate? This is really where we should be heading to. My thing with the real estate analysis in this case is that because Uber and Lyft are becoming more expensive, that means that people who were living downtown and were spending a lot of money on those condos and those townhomes, that maybe if there's a critical mass of people that think that that's going to be put a damper on your business, so businesses there won't be new businesses, new restaurants, new shops, new boutiques. So that means that there's less attraction for those people who want to buy a home downtown because of all the amenities that they have within walking distance, or especially with the riding, with the ride sharing. So there are less amenities. So therefore, less people will try to buy or want to buy homes downtown. So those prices are going to come down. Again, it requires a critical mass of people thinking this way. But if there's enough doom and gloom going on and enough people pushing that, and to start to see little indications like the Uber and the Lyft drivers disappearing or being more expensive for the same rides, people are going to start thinking that things are not so bad. But again, those who know me and been following me for a while understand that I always look at, okay, so what is the silver lining, or what is the positive aspect of this? I think politics can't be taken away. This is not a political show. I'm not going to get into that, but politics do affect economics. And so my expectation is that there's a change in the air, and people are starting to think that maybe things will change. Now, what that means exactly, we don't know. It doesn't really matter for our particular analysis, but the fact that there's a change means that either things are going to stay the same with a slight improvement, or they're actually going to get a lot better. So we shall see. But my thought and my expectation is that there will be a change. And so in real estate, We will not see the crash that so many people are predicting. I don't think that there's going to be, if there's any reduction in the price of the homes, and I don't think it's going to be an actual reduction of the price. I think it's going to be a reduction in the rate of increase. In other words, if you look at the historical appreciation or increase in the value of a home throughout history, it's been around 4%. That's just the average. For the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, we've been close to 20% nationwide, and Houston has been close to that. We've had very big increases on the average. Why that's not sustainable, that's beyond the scope of this particular episode, but it's just not. And what my thought is that we're going to, because we've been going beyond that 4% line, there'll be a correction to bring us back to the 4%. But I don't think we'll have the same situation we had during the 2008, 2009 Great Recession. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think what's going to happen is that the prices of the homes will either stay the same or increase at a lower rate for the next couple of years. So real estate is still a wonderful investment. It's still a great time to buy or sell. It just depends on what your situation is. And if you need to sell, it's a good time to sell. Just because if your particular needs are going that way. If you need to buy, it's a good time to buy. Now, people are saying, "Oh, you're going to buy? Is that crazy or what?" Well, if interest rates right now, they're about 7%, right? So if you buy a home at 7% and interest rates drop again dramatically, that's not my expectation, but they could. Say they drop back down to 3 or 4%. Well, you can always refinance that, and you have a home, and you can refinance that loan to get it at a lower monthly payment. However, if interest rates go beyond 7% to 8, 9, 10, 12%, which is not unheard of, 7% will look like a bargain. So either way, if your needs are such that you need to buy a home today, is a good time to buy. You can always protect yourself from, as I say, from if they come down, if the rates come down, you can protect yourself. If they go up, you look like a genius. So anyway, again, little indications can have big impacts. And so what I wanted to explain is this idea that inflation is going up, and we see it in the Uber drivers and the Lyft drivers disappearing, or those rides costing a little more, may put a damper on people wanting to buy homes in downtown metro areas. That could bring down the prices of homes, and therefore could bring down the again, not the prices necessarily, but the rate of increase would be smaller. Might make them a little more affordable. So anyway, till next time, you guys be good or be careful.